Right, using Lightroom to import, sort and process photos. This is day 2 of 3 days of inline hockey, and to show the process from start to finish, I thought I'd show the import stage. What I do, I'll then stop it while it finishes the import because it takes a while, and then I'll restart again and cover what I do immediately after import, which is what I call group editing. I've already started editing some of yesterday's, but one of the things I did was some light adjustments that are global across all images because of the way I decide to shoot. So I've already got the folder that they're going into. I use the color tagging system to differentiate between different days, so everything's in the one folder. So normally it would create the folder, put the files in there. I would create an edited, and inside that I'd create an uploaded, because I upload a lot of these to social media, and I also create a not used. And I go along and I either hit P or X on them to either pick or exclude them. These ones here that are excluded will get dragged to the not used folder. Out of habit, I don't delete anything until I've finished processing the lot. That's just a precaution. It means I can easily go back and find in this not used folder an image I might want to then look at. Or I do a lot of team photographs, so sometimes you get one kid that's got his eyes closed, and I burst shoot those to start with because the camera's just set up for that. And I'll go, I'll pick the best looking photograph, and then I go, I need to go back and grab a set of eyes for that kid. So yeah. So anyway, the import stage, classic import, cards in, wait for it to recognize it. You'll see there's some slightly darker photographs here because I shoot a lot of sideline stuff as well. First thing I do is I do not build smart previews, no need to for me. I do tick don't import suspect duplicates, and I also make a copy to a separate drive. So what it does is copies the raw files to another drive as well as where I'm about to put them. In this particular case, all mine, I have a sort of a structure. So I have a sports folder, and inside that is anything, any sports I do, and so that folder already exists. And because I did exactly the same as what I'm about to do yesterday, I do not need to recreate that folder. By default, that folder is still there, and if I haven't changed the destination, it sees that the folder's there and doesn't create a new one. So all I have to do on day 2 is I've gone to one of the files from yesterday to copy the file name, which didn't copy. I forgot to copy it. So I'll go copy, paste, paste, sorry. That way they're all named the same. The folder is generally the same name with the year in this case. Sometimes it's an actual day, month and year thing, but this is a once a year event, so I just put the year in there. I have a preset, they've clearly changed a couple of times, for the metadata, which puts in things like my copyright notice and a few other bits and pieces like that. That runs on import. I do not have, I could run one of my presets on import for developer settings, but because I got one that will boost the lighting on these photographs here, because they're all shot with the same lighting except for these sideline photographs, which you notice darker. I'll be boosting the exposure on these by using a preset. I could run it here, but I won't, because I'll just select the ones it needs to apply to, because it doesn't need to apply to these ones. I need to bump it up more than that. Yeah, and that gives me my base starting point. But because I shoot a number of different things, I don't often use the developer settings preset piece. Theoretically I could, and that would just be a case of picking my preset from in here, which I want favorites hockey base, so I might as well run it. I just got to remember not to run it next time I shoot something that's not hockey, which is why I don't run it generally, because I keep forgetting. So now it'll run both of those things on import. Everything's ticked, make sure. It says here 1174 photos. I always make a note of that because I've been caught out before. So what I do is I know that's how many photos there should be. Once import's done, I check to make sure that that's how many that are actually there. I don't add to a collection because I use collections a bit differently. What I do is, because I'm shooting across multiple days, I will go and pick a few photographs from each day as I progress, add them to a collection, then process just that collection of say 30 or 40 photographs, then go back and add another 30 or 40 scattered throughout the shoot, so that I'm getting an even distribution of photographs throughout the 3 days processed at roughly the same time. The only other thing I do in here is keywords for these, because oops, I will chuck certain keywords in here. Because I used them yesterday, it's pretty quick. Double check everything, make sure, yep. Now I'm ready to import. Hit import and let her rip. And because there's 1147 photographs, it's going to take a while. So I will, because what Lightroom does is it copies them to my hard drive, the raw files, and once it's copied them all, it goes through and converts them to DNGs, because I prefer to work with DNGs, because then any of the alterations are stored inside the DNG file, not as a separate sidecar file. And DNGs are exactly the same as the raw file. They are more portable because I can take that file that has all those changes in it and move it anywhere I like, or send it to someone if I wanted to. If you had a DNG file, if you had a raw file and you sent it to me to do my edit on, I would convert it to import it as a DNG, edit it, and I could send it back, and when you open it up in Lightroom, you'd be able to see all the sliders positioned how I left it. So it takes a while to get started. Now that all the images have been imported, while I'm still at this screen where it's showing everything that was imported, I just double check that the number of files equals the number of files on the SD card. Yep. So instead of going back to the folder, first thing I do is because I want to give these all a title, I select them all, give them the title, which is all the same. Normally I would have run my little preset, but I ran it on import. The next thing I do to help with my organization is, while I use the color tagging to group my photos by day normally. So normally day 1 is one color, day 2 is another color, and so on. And that's effectively what I'm going to do here, except for a slight difference. I'm going to color tag this lot. I did purple the other day, I might do blue today. And deselect those. Now some of these I'm going to change to something else. For starters, I want these ones of this dog, different color, and I do a lot of off the rink photographs. So what I want to do with those is give those a different color. So I've decided, just for no reason in particular, give them yellow. So I'll go through here. These are all game. Some of these images will be a bit overexposed due to running that preset on it, import, but that's easily fixed later on. Now, there's a whole bunch here that were taken during a fun skate time that they did. So I'll separate those out as well. There we go. Somewhere here I did a bunch where one of the players did some jumping for me. They look like they could be a mission to find. There's some of them there. Okay. I'm sure there was some others. Ah, there we go. There they are. Ah, lost myself again. That one through to that one there, I think. I'll label those yellow as well. So now I've got, everyone has a title, everyone's got some tags. There's a pre-edit done on them. The next thing I need to do is I go back to the folder itself now, and some of these I marked in camera. Yep. Some specific ones I want to find. Just want to see if I marked any during the game. So that's the next thing I do, is I just scan through and look for these stars which were done in camera. Crop this a bit. It's not the best focus. Both of these are not too bad, so I might see if I can straighten that up without losing too much of the edge. Sometimes it's a bit of a balance between highlights and exposure. send it through Photoshop. So that's pretty much the Lightroom end of it done. The only other thing I would do now, after I've edited this one, which will be pretty quick, is the next stage is to mark some of these, like that one for instance, that one there for instance. I might keep and crop, I think. So I want to add it to a collection, so I hit B to add it to a collection and pick. Oops. Because down here I've got a collection already made, which I want to send these through to. The reason for that being that, go right back to the beginning of the slot. Yep. Send that one through. X that one. Move that into the not used. But the next thing I'll do normally is, if I've shot a bunch of photographs slightly darker than the majority of them, like these ones of this dog, I will look at them and go, okay, that needs a little bit more exposure. Chuck in a bit of texture. Drop the highlights a little bit. Once I'm sort of happy with that, I'll select the lot and sync that. These are going to be dealt with later on. The game ones will be dealt with first. But here I've got some more that probably could do with a boost in the shadows. Drop the highlights a little bit, touch more exposure. The only other thing I do is, if I've bumped the exposure up a long way, I would go through and hit enhance for these, but I'm not going to do all of them. I shot a whole raft off here, so I'll sync those settings. Then, not today, but later on, I'll go through and find which one of these I want to keep, the best one, and if it needs These were just some fun ones I was playing with. If it needs some enhancement due to noise, then I'll run that. These ones here will probably have to be done individually pretty much, although that's the thing with Lightroom, you can find ones that have got similar lighting characteristics, like this whole stretch through to about here. And you can bump the lighting a bit. And sync that across all of them. These ones here are all quite dark. Most of these will have to be done individually, but I can bump the shadows and exposure, drop the highlights, sync that across those three, and then later on I'll come back in here and look for the one I want to keep. Some of these are a bit dark, but these two in particular, to make it easier to work out which one I'm going to keep. This is where the syncing option can come in very handy, because you can do it to one and sync it across a bunch of them that are similar. Most of the rest of these are pretty straightforward. So I'll go through here and find the common groups that have got slightly darker lighting or brighter lighting in some cases. See, this was the score box, and it's a little bit darker than on the rink itself. And the other thing is, because of the lighting in that area, you get a lot more yellow in the lighting, so one needs to adjust the white balance. Now, there's many ways to do this, but I tend to do it by eye. Now, when I come to edit these properly, I may change a lot of this once I've sorted out which photos I'm going to keep. This is pretty much just to make it a bit easier to find the ones I want to keep. See, these ones here are clearly too bright. there should be no shadow on those. Again, these ones are a little bit bright because there's a lot of light reflecting up there, so my bumping the light on them earlier, the exposure on them earlier, wasn't beneficial. So this method means I've fixed all of those ones there roughly. I will go through here and work out which ones I'll keep. Now I'm thinking possibly that one there, and I'll crop it in quite tight. Something like that. But I won't make that decision till I'm ready to go through these, and that's when I pick them and assign them to the collection. And so for instance, those ones just there, for instance, I'll pick one of those, maybe two, but probably just one, and assign it to the collection to edit, and dump the others. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do for that. And it means it speeds up the whole process a bit, because I'll go through here and each of these color groups, I'll take a few photographs, add them to this collection down here to process. But before I get to that stage, I'm looking for common lighting characteristics to sync across multiple images. Then I pick like these. I'll pick one of these images, generally what I start off with is working out which ones I'm not going to keep. So I might keep two of these. Nope. So I'll probably keep that one and that one. Today's shooting, there are a number of images here that will fall well down the list of images to sort. And there's a bunch here that were taken in the player box that were experimental. I was just seeing what I could get and what it would look like. I may reject all of these yet, but yeah, some of them are in focus, some of them definitely aren't. And the first thing I tend to do is, if I'm going through checking them, I'll reject any that are completely out of focus, and narrow down the list from there. Because the one thing of sports like this is you do run the risk of getting some that are out of focus. So I got 3 here. Now they're almost identical except for maybe the tilt of the head and the angle of the helmet. So I might go that's pretty much my process, and it's pretty much the same every time. I bring them in, I color code them if it's multiple days, I add the title in here, and that's because when I put them onto Flickr, it picks up the title as the image name on their site, which makes the process of naming them easier. The tags are added on import, but if I forget to do that, I'll add the tags in here. I then do some cluster editing, which is mostly lighting and things like that. Then I go through and pick the ones I'm likely to keep or edit. In the case of some where the shot at really high ISO, I then go and run the enhance over the denoise over that. And then every time I sit down to edit, I'll go through here and try and get a balance out of different parts of the day. Like here, these 2 here. So you choose between these. By putting those into the collection, see this one here, the angle of that goalie's hockey stick makes the difference between these two, because that one it's hard to see, that one it's clearly visible. Now by adding those to the collection means that I can come down here, and now I've just got a selection of, what is it, about 17 to edit, and I can focus on editing those, and they're a reasonably good spread. These ones here are the first day, this lot are the second day, this lot was a bunch of the really young ones playing, these ones here were the older ones playing. So there's a bit of a selection. This was the sponsor's little caravan thingy outside, which I just, since I know them, I thought I'd get a photo of that. Crop that in nice and tight. I could, for these, just see if it picks up the people. It should do. So maybe I could mask the people and just bump the brightness up on them just a little bit. See if it picks them up. It's not a big deal yet. It picks them up enough. Oops. messed up there. Accidentally hit reset. Odds are in Lightroom I'll probably remove this bit here, and the healing tool will probably just copy this bit of tree here, so and no one will know that there was daylight through here. But using this masking in Lightroom, texture bit, going to tone, bump the exposure on them just a little bit, and that's pretty much that done. Tweak the white balance a bit. Now what I'd do is I'd send that one through to, send that one through to Photoshop. One thing I love about the healing tool is there is an odds-on chance if I come down here because that's bright and it's a little bit distracting and annoying. This bit down here is a bit darker, it's not such a big deal. Now, on the whole, no one will really notice what I've done there necessarily, but it's taken away the brightness. I could probably go down that bit again. On the whole, it's brightness that distracts you. There. I've got a preset for the size I like to make that. And a version for social media. And that image is done. I now go back to Lightroom because I'm keep in mind I'm running this from a collection. So I drag into the edited folder, but of course it's still there because it's still in the collection. Hit B, remove it from the collection. And that's basically it. Right, as part of my editing routine, I've just been going through the massive files here and adding some to a collection, so I've got a smaller quantity to deal with that's reasonably evenly spread across the whole lot. Then I go to the develop module, and this is where I start my editing process. Most of the time my first action is to get an idea of my crop. Now this may change later. Just the lighting. with slight variations of effectively the same shot. I first try to see if the crop's going to work at the same ratio as my sensor. That's my preferred crop most of the time. Failing that, I'll look at a square crop, see what that looks like for these sorts of things. My preference is to stick to one of the standard defined ratios of some, rather than some odd sort of a ratio. So I tend to go, what's my sensor? 2x3 or 4x6, whatever you want to call it, 5x7, occasionally 8.5x11, 4x5 occasionally, or square. Normally it's 2x3 or 1x1. When I get images like, let's see if there's one in here, like maybe this here, I will often go for 8x4 as my first choice. Or sometimes I won't in this case, but sometimes I might go for a more cinematic one, which is the 2.39x1. And for most of these, what I look at is things I know are straight up and down. The crack in this wall, these poles at the back are generally the best gauge. Not always perfect, but see, I was following that then. And then what I look at is what do I want to keep in or what do I want to exclude. I want this relatively tight. And I've decided to keep this kit in because it adds to the image. Okay, 3 facing me, 1 facing away. There's no benefit in cropping in tighter. Here we have one that will go in even tighter. And I'll go through all of these, and then sometimes technically straight is not always visually straight, which is why I don't often use this functionality here. I mean auto. It's generally not too bad, and with this there are a lot of straight lines. See, now I don't want this because of this bit here. I don't want this here. So I'll just go in on these 2 kids here. And this one again, try auto, seems to have done it right. Come on close, come on close. For most of these, I want them in the middle generally. This one here again will be square. See, I don't think Auto got it spot on. Generally, I bring the top and bottom down first, then bring the sides in or reposition or whatever. Now, this one here, there is a very good chance I will probably like keeping the goal in. Mainly because I don't see any advantage in making that a square crop and having half the goal in. It does, having the goal in there does contribute to the story, whereas this is a naturally square one. There is nothing out here that adds to the image, so this in theory would be naturally a square image. Once I've gone through all these, I'll send them off to Photoshop to save out with my signature on or whatever, and do any additional editing I might need that can only be done in Photoshop. Which isn't a lot, but sometimes there's a bit of add, remove stuff needing doing. Now this one here, I did a few of these, and these are definitely going to be square cropped. Well, that one is anyway. Now, what happens, I don't want to cut just part of this wheel off. Because I've already got a square crop one, this Skater Kid, and I can crop that without cropping out a little bit of the wheel, because I hate cropping just a teeny bit of the wheel if I can avoid it. That's okay because it's in the background. So we've now got context. She's standing there to skater around, so that works. This one here, just drop the highlights a little bit. Because the arms are out, this seems quite natural to me that it's going to stay the same ratio as my sensor. Same as this here. I feel wind up that post, bringing this up and keeping the whole goal in is what the image is. Now we get to this one here, these kids having a bit of fun. I'll grab the corner and bring it in because I don't want to bring it up yet. Okay, because I've cropped this arm off here, I've got two choices. I can make it a solo image or keep some semblance of a story there. Now I've got two options. I can do that, or that. And I think that's the better image. It was just a grab shot that was more chance than anything. This one here, again, same shape as the sensor, because we've got two lots of people here, both on the 1/3 line. So that's the process I'm going to be going through for the next little while. There's quite a few here. 75. I don't normally do that many into a collection at any one point, but that's pretty much how I go.